Hey, what's up, my people? So today I want to bring another topic. Remember, we have covered a lot of many topics concerning green card. We've covered about the interview process. We've covered the documents that you need during the interview. We've covered about the medical process and what you need during the medical. We've talked about the confirmation. We've talked about all that process. And now today, guys, I want to bring another video. Today, guys, now I want to bring another video that will be talking about reasons as to why one can be cancelled or be denied So today, guys, I want us to talk about the reason as to why one can be denied a visa at or during the interview. So these are the reasons as to why you can be denied a visa during the interview or after the interview at the embassy seeking for an immigrant visa. The reason number one is forgery of documents. So guys, as I said before, is that as you continue this journey after application, you need to have the right documents. And if you have these documents and you have done forgery to attain the documents, for example, the documents concerning your education, concerning maybe your birth, or that is your birth certificate, or maybe your marriage certificate, you forged it and you never went to the right sources for the documentation. If it's found, because remember, as I said, you are dealing with a U.S. embassy, and U.S. embassy dealing with U.S. is not easy because they have all the background information about an individual, and they have the technology to seek about this information. So if they found that your documents have been forged and they are not right, that is the birth certificate, that is your education certificates, and also your marriage certificates if you are married, then that is an enough reason for you to be cancelled. So you can imagine, like, you're having a family of 5 and you've already paid for the medical fees, and you have already done all the processes, you have done the photos, you have already paid the visa, and now you're waiting to go to the interview. And you really know that you did a lot of forgery in your documentation. That is something to worry about, because that will be an automatic cancellation. And what it means that you, the applicant, and plus your family, even if you had the right other information and everything was right, but the documentation is forgery, then you're not going to proceed to get the visa. So be very careful upon the documentation acquiring process. Ensure that you acquire these documents in the right manner. Go to the government, government places where you're supposed to receive these documents, and get the right documents. Don't forge documents, because it's gonna be bad for you, and you're gonna wail and weep because all your money will be gone. And as I said, there is no refund for this money. So don't forge your documents. All right. So the next thing is, for instance, if you are having a family, maybe you're having a family of 3 or 2, and maybe you have adopted a daughter or a son, and you want to go with your daughter or your son that you have adopted. Now you need to have adoption papers. What do I mean? Like, if you have adopted a son or a daughter, you have to have the legal adoption papers from the government showing that you have adopted the child legally, and you are allowed to go with the child or to live with the child. So if you don't have the adoption papers, I'm sorry for you, because you cannot be allowed to go with the child. So probably when you go to the visa interview or to the embassy for the interview, and you get interviewed and you don't have the papers for the adoption, then what it's gonna mean, and you have passed for your you have passed during your interview, what it means that you will go alone and leave the child that you have adopted until the time you'll get the papers that shows you have adopted that child legally. So to avoid such kind of things, it's better you seek for this legal documentation for the adoption of the child. Another thing that I might say, for example, you're a man or you're a woman and you have your child, and you've divorced. So what you need to do is, if in the birth certificate of the child it shows that the father is present, the mother is present, that is in the birth certificate, If it shows that in your child's documentation and you don't have legal divorce papers, that means this child is for both of you. And so what you need to do, you need a consent letter. If you're the husband, you need a consent letter from your former wife that she has agreed that you can go with the child to United States. Or if you are a wife or a mother or a woman and you have a child that you gave birth with another person and the person appears in the birth certificate, you need a consent letter from him showing that he agrees that you can go with the child. Or if you have divorce papers that shows you guys divorced and you agree that you can stay with the child, then that will work for you. So just know that if you have not legally divorced and you don't have papers to have or to stay with the child, you need a consent letter if the birth certificate of the child shows the mother and the father's name. But if the birth certificate of the child only shows the mother's name, then that means the mother can go with the child because the father is not present. But if the father is present in the birth certificate, just know you need the consent letter. So that is another thing that can lead to you not gaining the access to go to the United States with your child, or sometimes even you missing to have the visa because they'll be like, why don't you have the documentation, the right documentation? All right. Okay, so something else that I'll deal about in this video is that the lies. So one thing that people never know, lies are so bad, and if lies are detected anywhere, especially in the US, if you lie, that is a very serious criminal case. Because if, for example, you come and lie, for instance, like in my situation, remember I was telling you when I was seeking for a host, I was told, what, if you want me to give you a host or my brother to host you, you need to marry my daughter, go with my daughter, and then I'll give you the documentation. I'll ask my brother to give you the documentation and to host you. So if you agree to such shenanigans, let me call them shenanigans, if you agree to such and then you marry for the sake of getting the documentation on the papers, then in the embassy, when you are applying, you had applied as single and now they are seeing you're married. They'll be like, what happened? How did you come to marry? And then you just remember they have all these things. Remember, these guys have asked you for your Facebook, they have asked for your social media accounts. So they can go through your Facebook, they can go through your YouTube. If you have a YouTube channel, they can go through your Twitter, they can go through your Instagram, they can go through your Snapchat. If you have a Snapchat, they can go through your social media accounts. So they can see how you've been posting things, if it's dating or maybe marriage and stuff. They are able to check a background checkup for that. And then they just see that even you have not even, this lady that you propose or you say you've married, she doesn't even appear anywhere, not even in your Facebook, not in anything of in any of your social media, not nowhere, you've not mentioned her anywhere. Then you don't have maybe for example pictures and everything to show that you had a union or stuff, you get a marriage and stuff, and they just see the timeline, even the timeline between your marriage and everything, it was so rushed, and there's no that maybe that process that you followed. Just know they might know that you are lying, and that one is an automatic cancellation, and that's how you miss green card, and that's how you can get a blacklisting. Because remember, each time you come to the embassy, they'll be like, okay, remember they have this documentation. Sometimes they say, oh, they don't check the previous, but remember they have this documentation, they have the background checkup. So you might miss this time round and apply the other time. Somebody else will be interviewing you, but you might be lucky. So instead of putting yourself into that option whereby you can apply for green card, get the chance to go to the embassy, and then miss the chance just because of lies, avoid lying so that you can proceed well and go to the next level. So you have to try that, to be yourself and to be real and to be honest, and to avoid a lot of lies and contradiction. Because remember, whatever you said in your DS260 is what you're gonna be asked during your interview. And as I told you guys, for instance, I was asked about my situation, if I'm married, if I'm dating, I was asked about my work experience or the job that I was doing, and he framed that question in a good manner so that I can explain whatever I was doing and see if I'll repeat the same thing that I say. So remember, the whatever you say or whatever you feel in your DS260 is whatever you're going to be asked during the interview. So avoid contradiction, avoid lies, and avoid this last minute backup plan that people have, like because I'm missing this, let me do this so that I can go with this person, or so that I can gain this and this, so that they can pay for me this and this. No, avoid these kind of things, because these are devil tempting you so that you can miss your opportunity. Right, guys? So the next thing that I'm going to talk about, for instance, if you're married and for example, you applied your green card during, maybe for example, for people who are going to apply like coming October, and then even by the time the DS260 is coming, that is in May next year, you're not even married, maybe you're dating, and so on your DS260 you feel as single, or even your application you feel as single, because remember, you're either single or married. It's not like there's a place where they say dating. So it's either you're single or you're married. If you're married, you must have the marriage certificates and the documentation right with you. And if you're single, that is it, you're single. So you're single till the time you're giving out your DS260. And you submit maybe your DS260 on around May and June. And then perhaps maybe on August you get married. And then maybe your interview is around October or November. So you see, you didn't have a time to include your wife in the DS260, because by that time you had already submitted the DS260 and they had already sent you a 2NL to show you that you're going to the interview. That one is is something that is acceptable, as long as you have all this documentation or this evidence that I was dating this lady, this is the time we went for the wedding, this is the time we went maybe for the dowry payment, this time for the wedding, we have all these pictures with us, you have all this backup information to prove that you married this person for the right cause, and this person is like you married for the right reason, and it's not just because of you're flying out or because you have an opportunity to go to America. If you have all that and you have the marriage certificate, you're good to go. But for instance, you say you're married, and after you say you're married, they're asking for a marriage certificate and you don't have it. And maybe even you have 5 kids with this man or this woman. That one will not work out until you prove with a marriage certificate. So that's it. If you don't have it, you have to seek for the marriage certificate, because if you don't have it, you'll not go anywhere. So that can lead to you to denial of the visa, or maybe just the main applicant to go and the others to remain because the union has no certificate, so the union is not valid. All right. So the next thing that we're gonna deal, or the next thing that can lead to cancellation or refusal of visa, that will be terrorism. So what is terrorism? For example, you're in a group of terrorists and you've been terrorizing your country or terrorizing people. If you join such militia groups, I tell you that you will not be able to proceed to come to USA, because they don't want to harbor terrorists and bring terrorists in their country to come and bring downfall of their nation. So they need people who have sober mind. They need people who are well disciplined. They need people who is gonna bring economical growth, and there'll be a source of maybe employment, or a source of labor, and a source of growth for this country. So if you are into such kind of militia groups, or in such militia groups, it can be very, very, very difficult for you to make it through the interview and get the visa. And something else that I want to tell you is that during the interview, I showed you the green paper. That one is given after they have won green card. Now, there are some papers like this, but now different. One of them is called a yellow paper, and another one is called a red paper. The yellow paper is what we call AP. What is AP? AP means it's under administration procedure, and that means you have been put into scrutiny because of a few things that you have not maybe attained. For instance, maybe your KCSE certificate confirmation was not done, and you need to do your KCSE certificate confirmation. So until they receive that, that's when your fate can be decided. So when going to the interview and maybe your KCSE certificate confirmation was not done, that can lead you to given an AP, because they will ask why was it not confirmed, because that means there might be a reason behind your documentation being forged or something of that sort. So you can be lucky to move without that, but most cases, if your KCSE certificate or your high school certificate is not sent, like confirmation to the embassy, that can lead to an AP. Something else that can lead you maybe to miss or to get an AP is what we call confusion in names or different kind of names on your documents. For instance, in your birth certificate, you have a name like Smith, Margaret, Kamau, and then on your other document is like Kamau, Smith, Margaret, and then the other document is like Margaret, Kamau, Smith. That one can lead you to get an AP or be denied even a visa. Why? Because this shows that these are three kind of people. So for you to proceed with this visa application and obtain the visa and pass or avoid that AP, you need what you call an affidavit. What is an affidavit? An affidavit is a document that's showing, you go to swear before a magistrate that all those names that are in your documents that are differently arranged or differently placed in your documents, they all belong to you and it's you, and you swear that it's you, then you're given an affidavit to show that. So with that affidavit, if you go with it to the embassy, that one they will accept it because it's a legal document. So if you know your names are different and your names are contradicting to one another, seek for an affidavit as soon as you can, so that when you go to the embassy, they don't put you on an AP. Because remember, an AP is what we call the yellow papers, I've told you. And an AP, it can be so devastating because sometimes there's no time for them to come back to revisit the AP papers. Like the other time you see the 2023 DV applicants, what happened to them? We thought that they're gonna have like the whole of September, as an interview time. But what happened? At date 7 September, the DV 2023, you see what happened to them. At September date 7, the process is gonna stop. So if you haven't gone to your medicals, you can stop going to the medical. But if you wanna proceed and go to the medical, just be assured that you're not going to proceed past date 7. That means the DV 2023 stopped date 7. So if you were to go to the medicals at around date maybe 8, and then go to the interview maybe date 10 or 9, then means that's the end of your journey. So that's how people, got their journey like cut off. So if you don't have this affidavit to prove that these names are yours, all of them, no matter how they are written or no matter how they are arranged, it's you, then you're gonna have an AP and it might not work on you because you might be given an AP and it might never be, it might never be worked upon, and that's how you miss an opportunity to come to America just because of documentation and lacking the correct supportive document. So if your names are different on your documentation, that is your high school certificate, your ID, and your birth certificate, they show different names, and your passport. If your passport, ID, birth certificate, and your high school certificate have different names, then seek for an affidavit, right? Seek for an affidavit. That will, help to curb the matter. But if your 4 documents have the same names, correctly spelled and correctly arranged the same way, then you're good to go. All right? So that's what I told you. It can lead to an AP, and AP you can get that yellow paper. Sometimes they write down there the reason as to why you've been placed on AP. All right. So the other paper is the red paper. The red paper is just like the yellow paper, which is a single sheet, or the green paper, which is it's just like this paper here. It's just a single piece of paper, but red in color, and that is what we call a refusal. Refusal is basically you've been refused, you've been denied visa, and you have nothing to, like, you cannot complain about, you cannot do nothing about it. That is like a cancellation. So the reason for cancellation can be either of those reasons I also gave you, because maybe they just they just checked on your background and they have seen, oh, this guy was a terrorist one time. You'll get that refusal, because after all, nobody wants to risk. Another thing, it can be, maybe for example, you married for the wrong reason. Then they have realized, oh, this guy just married the other day for the sake of papers, just married the other day for the sake maybe of money and stuff. That can bring to you getting a refusal. You see, and when you get a red paper, you cannot do nothing. That's the end of it until maybe you apply next year and wait for the fate again to decide. So try as much as you can do to give the right documents, correct documents, and check that all your documents have the right information and the right names and stuff. And if your documentation differ from names or spellings, just seek for an affidavit to be on the safer side. Ensure you do everything in the right manner, and don't put your process into danger just because of money, or just because of a promise of maybe host and stuff. I'm so happy today, guys, because you guys have made me proud. We just hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy for the milestone that we've moved. So guys, thank you for subscribing to this channel. Thank you for liking and watching my videos. Continue watching and liking my videos. Continue sharing the videos with other people, and let's keep it going, guys. Let's keep it going. Now we're going for 2,000 subscribers, and I know it's doable and it's attainable, because we said positivity all the way. So thank you so much, guys, for watching this video, and God bless you so much. Adios. Bye.